Okay, so Ryan is the co-founder and CEO of ApnoMed. ApnoMed won the $15,000 Intuit X Grand Prize at the 2020 Holloman Health Innovation Challenge and the $25,000 Herbert B. Jones Foundation Grand Prize at the Dempsey Startup Competition. Ryan grew his business as a Master's of Science in Entrepreneurship student from a framework he and his father, a Bellevue orthodontist, created together. He's a Forbes 30 under 30 Seattle honoree. And most important, he is a 2017 entrepreneurship graduate of WSU Carson College of Business. Let's give a big Cougar welcome to Ryan.
Thank you. I can't hear them, but thank you, Marie. I appreciate it. Do you have anything else to go over? Am I good to go?
No, I think you are good to go.
Okay, and everybody can hear us okay? I'm assuming. Okay, I see some head nods. Well, thank you. It does seem like just yesterday that I was sitting in your class. Come a long way. So maybe I'll start by, I think it's helpful to go through how ApnoMed even started in his idea at WSU, because I think that in itself is kind of cool. So background about myself. I grew up in a dental chair. My father's an orthodontist, so some of my earliest memories and pictures were holding appliances and tools in a dental chair. I was actually my first year and a half, I was tracked for pre-dental. And then I remember I had to take like a prerequisite business class, and that's how I ended up actually in Marie's class. And I had all of these ideas and heard the words entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, this is really, really interesting. I kind of like this. Um, and from there, I kind of made the decision, which was a battle with my dad and my parents, because obviously, being a dental provider for my dad was really cool for me to follow in his footsteps. But I kind of fell in love with the aspect of owning and running a business that was somehow involved in the dental space, if possible, because I had such a unique understanding about it. I also was impacted by sleep apnea at a young age, which kind of ties into the company ApnoMed and how that all started. But anyways, I decided to full-time switch to a business major, which was shocking for my parents, but I still have a good relationship with them, so we're doing good. But I remember I had to do the business plan competition, and I remember I was so excited to do it. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I remember we were trying to sit down with my buddy, come up with what we wanted to talk about, what we wanted to potentially pitch. And at the time, my father had developed a bunch of these appliances that he was just using in his practice for his patients. And they were working so good. And his patients loved them. And he had cases that, other clinicians could not really show this type of quality of care. So I reached out to my dad and I was like, hey, I have to do this competition. It's not really a big deal. It's not going to go anywhere. Do you mind if I just use some images and stuff of your product and blah, 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 and, we'll go with it. And he was like, yeah, sure, go for it. So I got my buddy Jonah Graff. He was actually at University of Idaho, and he was willing to do it with me. So we came up with the word ApnoMed, and we decided to pitch this thing and come up with a business plan. And all of that happened sitting in Marie's class. So it's kind of surreal to now be back full circle. I was, like she said, one of you guys trying to go through this whole thing, and it's kind of a big journey, but really cool to be back. It's a little bit about the company. So we provide medical appliances and technologies for the management and treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. So a big part of what we do is actually educate clinicians. We teach them, which is actually, I was supposed to be there today, and I was telling Marie, I'm so sorry I wasn't, but we have a mini residency tomorrow at our office. So we have doctors from all around the country come out for 2 days, twice a year, and we train them how to use our appliances, but also how to educate them on sleep apnea and deliver better care in their practice. And I do remember, because obviously I worked on ApnoMed right out of college. So that was also a huge risk for me. And I remember the defining moment for me was I walked into the career fair, and I had overwhelming anxiety. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. I'm gonna I'm gonna work on this idea that I wrote down that I'm pitching. So that's really how the story of ApnoMed started. From there, I graduated. I worked on it for about 2, 3 years. A big milestone for us was FDA clearance. Obviously, we couldn't commercialize it or market it outside of our own office without getting FDA clearance. So I worked on that, had no idea what I was doing, but we figured it out. We got our first FDA clearance, I believe, in 2018 or 19. Then we could finally commercialize it out of our office. Then it took off from there. I then realized that I still had no idea what I was doing, which you'll realize is a reoccurring theme in running a business. So I decided I needed to learn more. I started looking at MBA programs, but I was not in a position where I wanted to leave the business and go pursue a 2 year full-time education. And I also didn't want to be, I didn't, because most of MBA programs, they're kind of corporate track. They guarantee a job placement, whatnot. I wasn't really looking for that. I was looking for knowledge and education that I could apply to what I was doing and scale the business. So my girlfriend at the time, now wife, her mom found this program, which don't hate me, but it's through University of Washington. I just want to make a disclaimer. I'm a Coug always. Football day, I'm always rooting Cougs. If it's an Apple Cup, I'm wearing Coug gear. So let's just put that out there. But it was called the Master of Science in Entrepreneurship through the University of Washington. It was Foster School of Business. And I was like, oh, wow, this looks amazing. It was pretty much utilizing some of the MBA material and then applying it to your own business. So you pretty much you either pitch a business idea or something you're working on as part of your enrollment, and then you get in and you pretty much learn stuff and then apply it to your company. And that was really what kind of scaled ApnoMed to the next level. And I found some success in the business plan competitions. I also did the Jones Foster Accelerator. I got 25,000 in non-dilutive funding from there. So I'll go over this. I did prepare some material. I know most of you are preparing to go through the business plan competition. It can be kind of scary, don't really know what to expect. So I kind of put some of my tips and advice. I can go through that, but that's kind of my background. I have a lot of passion, which is another thing that I'll tie into the presentation is, I have a lot of personal stake because I was a customer in a sense, right? I had experienced what it was like to not have access or education about what was wrong with me. There's a lot of people out there that suffer from sleep apnea. So that's kind of what drives me every day. And it changed my life thanks to my dad. He identified the problem. I went through treatment. I had jaw surgery, but now we have better treatments, better technology. So we're able to bypass a lot of surgeries. But anyways, let me go into, because I want to leave also some time for Q&A. Again, I want to be here to answer your guys' questions and offer any advice or feedback. So let me just run through this. It shouldn't take that long. And then we can kind of leave it to an open discussion and see where it goes from there. You guys have what I like to call a golden ticket opportunity. Like these business plan competitions, they may not seem like a lot, but they're huge. ApnoMed pretty much started out of these student competitions. Even outside of, WSU, what I did it through UW. I even did the University of Idaho one. I honestly don't think I would have been where I am today without taking the risk in doing these competitions. It is a lot of work, but it's invaluable feedback that you get, right? The more you're able to put your ideas, your pitches, whatever it is, your business plans, the more you put it out there, the more feedback you get from people. I know it can be nerve-wracking. Not everybody likes to pitch. Not everybody, you get stage fright. I still get stage fright. It happens, but it is so crucial for you guys to take advantage of it. And the stakes are so low. Like, let's be honest, you have really nothing to lose, right? When you go into the real world, the stakes get a lot higher. You have bills to pay. It's real life. So take advantage of it while you can. There's also opportunities for non-dilutive funding. So like out of all the student competitions, I came out with over $100,000 in non-dilutive funding, which that's huge, right? You can really leverage that to take your business to the next level. So really take them seriously, do as many as you can. I know there's a couple in Spokane. They do one over there at Gonzaga, right? They have a competition too. I also remember there was that one event that we went to. It was that business idea pitching night. I remember we stayed the night there and it was really cool. Everybody came up with an idea and pitched it. So all of those things, do all of them. Expose yourself to those opportunities. And it also help you shape your narrative, not only your company narrative, your product narrative, but also your personal narrative. Part of starting a business and pitching it all is you're also pitching yourself. Most people invest in teams and people rather than products. So I'll also go over that. But again, right, there's me. That was my first check with my buddy Jonah at the University of Idaho pitch competition. We got $1,000. And I remember we were so excited about it. I'm pretty sure we blew almost all of that at the bar, buying drinks and stuff, but it was so fun to get that $1,000. And honestly, it seems so dumb saying it, but that $1,000 gave me enough validation to risk not getting a full-time job out of college. So like that's how much these small wins can drive your passion and fire for starting and running a business, because it takes a lot of that, because you're taking a huge, tremendous amount of risk. The one to the right, that was for the Health Innovation Challenge. The check started getting bigger. That one was for $15,000. And then I believe we also won $2,500 for best idea for a medical device. So it was like $17,500 for that one. And then the Dempsey, unfortunately, that's when COVID hit. So the award ceremony and all of that went virtual, but I do have a recording that my wife took of the moment where they were announcing it. So I'll just play it.
Jones Award to ApnoMed.
Centers of the 2020.
Anyways, it's a lot of fun, right? So you get to meet a lot of people, and obviously winning big checks is a lot of fun. And then you can use it for doing cool things in your business. Don't just blow it on a vacation. I know some people have taken group vacations after winning money, but I had some items that I needed to take care of in the company. So we use it a lot for marketing expense and going to trade shows and all of that. So anyways, general tips on pitching. So I don't know how much you guys have gone over. I'm sure you've talked about this stuff a lot, but I'm going to kind of give you my key takeaways from doing competitions, even outside of pitching and competitions, talking to investors, pitching to investors. I think it's all applicable. Pretty much this stuff is setting you up to talk and present to investors. These are people that you're pitching to and presenting to. A lot of them are pretty high in their careers. Some of them are investors. So when I was going through all of this, that was my mindset, was treating these people like they're writing checks for my business. And that made it very real to me, and I took it very seriously. Obviously, I kind of said this, but pitch to as many people as you can, and as many people that don't understand what the heck you're doing. Because tying into the next one, majority of the people you talk to actually have no clue about your business or industry, and you just have to assume that. Especially for me, we were in a super niche market, like obstructive sleep apnea medical devices. Not that many people even knew how my product worked, what it did, what the industry looked like. So I remember when I started pitching it to people, my biggest frustration was, gosh, nobody understands the opportunity. Nobody gets my product and how amazing it is. So really going into it with that mindset and talking to as many people as you can, and then really ask them, okay, based off of that 30-second, 1 minute, 5 minute, 10-minute pitch, do you know what my product does? Okay, do you know how I make money? Right, because those are really the questions that investors immediately have in their head, or these judges. what's their product, what does it accomplish, and how the heck do they make money? So talking to friends, family members, elderly family members who are like not in sync with what's going on in modern business, because they're going to ask you questions that you would have never even thought of. Literally pitched to my grandma so many times, and I learned so much from it because she would ask me questions that I was like, oh wow, nobody's ever asked me that. Pitch in the mirror, right? Working on your cadence when you're pitching is huge. I pitched in the mirror and recorded myself hundreds of times, and I would watch it and I would go back and do it again. So again, there's never too much practice when you're pitching. I know the structures of the competitions might be a little bit different, but I still think there's never too much practice when it goes to your pitching. I think another problem that I've seen people do is they kind of go into reading a script, and I really don't like when that happens. So I like to more paint a picture of a story, like you're walking them through this journey. And so don't just sit there and read a piece of paper a million times, because then you just sound like an automated robot and nobody really likes listening to that. So there needs to be some, like you've almost memorized it so much that honestly, all of my pitches had something different every time. I just knew the material so well. I was really just talking it. And I think that's what separates an amazing pitch from some that are just seem overly rehearsed. The next one is also very important, strategically setting judges and investors up for Q&A. Obviously, in 10 to 15 minutes, there's absolutely no way you're going to touch on every single detail of your company. So leaving strategic parts out of your pitch deck or your oral pitch in Q&A is huge. So for me, a lot of the financial aspects of the business, I didn't want to eat up 2 minutes of my time staring at a projections of forecast that are made up numbers and, wasting time on that. So I instead, briefly addressed it. And then obviously it came up in the Q&A. How do you, what does your financial projections look like, etc. So again, I did this in several aspects. It was like the go-to-market strategies. I remember we covered that a lot in Q&A. Questions about team come up in Q&A. So if there's specific areas that you think take too much time to explain, don't eat up time in your pitch or presentation to cover that aspect. Try to leave time for that in a Q&A and set it up in a way that they're going to intuitively be asking about those questions. It takes some crafting and time to do, but you can figure it out. And then having a definitive ask, right? So even if you're not raising money, even if you're not doing whatever, asking for a vote, at the end of the day, I said, like, treating these people like real investors. That was a really big perspective change for me. So, something as simple as we would really love a vote for the next round because it'll allow us to do whatever. We are looking to get investment of this $10,000 prize money because we can do this and go to these trade shows and fly our team to this big meeting. So we can talk to this many customers. So having those asks are huge because at the end of the day, you are asking to win. So don't be afraid to ask for something. Last one is huge for me, right? Sell dreams, not products. Everybody's selling products, but what these judges really see is your passion and your bigger picture. Everybody loves the founder's story. How did it all start? Everybody loves a good underdog story, right? So however you got to starting your product or idea, really hone in on that and tie that into your pitch. What's the bigger picture? How is this going to impact millions of lives? It's not just another water bottle or another app. So selling the bigger picture to me is bigger than, even if your product is amazing. I think, selling the whole dream is a lot more effective than just trying to sell one tiny product or an app. And this ties into your value proposition. What makes your product different? Why is it unique? Why is it better? Again, selling that whole ecosystem of how your product's going to tie into making a change for people who are spending money on your product. Kind of covered some of this, what judges look for. I say this a lot. These judges are really good bullshit detectors. Don't try to make up stuff on the spot. I've done it. I've made the mistake. Actually, I remember the WSU pitch. We got asked some very tough questions, and we were making stuff up left and right, and you could just tell they know. Right. So that was a big learning lesson for me. If you don't know, I would just say that's a fantastic question. We've looked into it a little bit. Obviously, not enough. I'm going to actually research that. And then I'm going to actually, if it's okay, I'd like to email you or talk to you about what I come up with, and we could talk about that after this. So just maybe deferring it and saying that you acknowledge that you don't know, but you're going to look into it because it's very important. It's a lot better than trying to make something up because they will know. Knowing your competition, right? Obviously, your competing companies, they're not your enemies, but you get what I'm saying, right? You need to know your competition very well. So, your comparables, who you're comparing your company to, look at their annual filings. What was their COGS? What was their customer? You need to know all of these numbers, because that's what sets you apart from the other people pitching, is knowing your stuff, knowing your competition, how they make money, how did they start, what was unique with them that helped them to get their scalability, that put other competitors down, right? You need to know all of this stuff. Product market fit. I think something I saw a lot was people had really cool products, really good ideas, but they really didn't know how it fit into the marketplace. So this is tremendous, right? Because at the end of the day, like I've been repeating, you can have a really cool solution, but if you don't know how that plugs into the ecosystem, it's almost useless. So really know specifically the customer need that you're fulfilling, and that ties into the ideal customer profile. Literally, which I'm sure you guys have done this with Marie, but like sit down on a piece of paper and like draw a picture of who you think is going to be the ideal candidate to buy your product. That's huge, because at the end of the day, these are the people that are reaching into their pockets and giving you their hard-earned money for your product or service for a problem in their life that you're solving. So really hone in on that, because at the end of the day, that's how you're selling and making money, which ties into, how do you make money? Do you know how you make money? You'd be more surprised that a lot of people that do these competitions or pitch, or even in general have a business idea, don't actually know how they make money. So you'd be surprised. So really understand how that entire process works for you. You might be a nonprofit, so charitable. So it all depends. It doesn't have to be a product service, but just understand how the money comes in, how the money goes out. And then, what does an exit look like for you? Some of these judges or investors, especially investors, they want to know your 5-10 year exit, because at the end of the day, they're making an investment in your business, right? So are you planning on going public? Are you planning on an acquisition? Whatever it is, just kind of have a general concept of what you, as the founders of the business, how do you want to step away from the business? Because that's important for the judges who are getting involved, or the investors who are getting involved with your business. The team is huge, right? And I said that in the beginning, but people invest in teams, not products. It's not uncommon to hear about stories where investors did a deal and they had no product, right? But they believed in the team, because that's who doesn't. If you have a good team, they're going to find a product eventually, right? So I'll go over this again in the slide formats. But if you have certain people on your team that have unique skills, I would really leverage that. The judges love that. And then even past the judging stuff, when you're out in the real world, when you're investing, raising money, whatever, teams are huge, and who's behind the product, what's the story, how did you guys all get there, and what makes you unique. And then most of all, is this a viable opportunity, right? Like these judges don't want to give you a vote to win if it's something that you're going to walk away from after college, or if it's just going to be a dead end. So just kind of paint that picture that you do have plans to take this further. This is what we want to accomplish after this competition. It's legitimate. We're not just doing this because we have to do it type of deal. So really try to sell that to the judges. I think that that's big if you want to get a vote for them. Pitch deck format. So this probably, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because you guys have probably done all of this. I don't think it needs to be this exact format. Like going back to the team, if you have a very impressive team, maybe team goes in slide 2, right? Like if you really want to show off and sell, if you've got PhDs or people who are industry experts, maybe put team number 2, really emphasize we're the right people to do this. Maybe our product isn't 100% fleshed out, but our team's going to figure it out because of X, Y, and Z. And you can tweak some of this around. So again, at the end, make sure you have an ask or something like a use of funds. What do you want the prize money for? How are you going to use it? Which is going to allow you to get to the next step. So again, I don't want to spend too much time because I'm sure you guys have seen all of this stuff. Tips. Avoid text heavy slides. You're not there to just read slides to your audience, right? They know how to read. Your slides are really there to navigate your story. So use them as reference points or touch points to be able to present your product, your opportunity, and what you're doing. Big fonts like size 24, 28. Please avoid like size 12 in presentations. Like it's not helping anybody at that point, I promise you. Maximum of 10 to 12 slides should be more than adequate, and then some appendix slides as a support for Q&A. I think my pitch deck had 15 slides. 10 of them were just what I focused on, and then the 5 after were for Q&A and referencing. So again, less is definitely more, and you don't want to just be standing there reading them stuff. I made the mistake. I've done it. Trust me, you want to be having like more of a conversation with them and telling them a story rather than just reading them a bunch of stuff. So those are kind of my general tips for pitch decks. And then my best advice that I can leave you with is passion outweighs all. I think that in the general journey of entrepreneurship, right, where you guys are headed, what you're doing, first of all, if you're in it to make a quick buck, I think that there's other ways to do it. This is not for the faint of heart that you're gonna, make money overnight, because there's probably other easier ways to make money. The only thing that gets me out of bed on the low lows, because a lot of entrepreneurship is like, I'm sure you've heard, it's an emotional roller coaster. There's really high highs and super low lows. And the only thing that gets you out of the low lows is if you have enough passion to keep on going. So again, for me, that was trying to help as many people that had experienced what I was going through. If it wasn't for that, I probably would have quit a long time ago, because it does get really hard, especially in the beginnings. It can be really lonely. So make sure you have people to talk to rely on. If you have a team, whoever it is, friends, it can get pretty lonely sometimes. So again, you need to have that passion or burning desire to make a change. But on the other side of it, it's probably the most rewarding thing you can do, knowing that you're contributing to society, your product is making a difference, your service is doing something that nobody else out there is doing. So definitely don't quit on yourselves. And I thought there was many nights, probably, oh my gosh, my wife will tell you more than 500 times that I've been like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I just want to go to a 9-to-5 job. I'm out. I'm too stressed out, but they pass, the waves pass, and you keep pushing on. So maybe others aren't as stressed out as I am. Who knows? Maybe it's my specific industry because I deal with people all day. chronic pain and stuff, but it can be very hard. So having the passion is huge. And also when you're pitching this thing, people and judges, investors, they can really hear the passion in your voice. Do you really believe in what you're doing, or are you just selling another thing? So that's probably my biggest advice. And other than that, I was going to do Q&A, or if there's anything else we wanted to talk about. I didn't want to take too much more time just on slides.
No, great. I'd love to take some Q&A. I have some things I can ask if the room doesn't have lots of questions, but I think they do have some. So Savannah, go ahead and let me, there you unmuted. Great. Ryan, do you want to go ahead and stop, maybe stop?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, there you go. Then we'll just get a bigger view of the students.
I can't hear.
Yeah. If they ask one, repeat it, Savannah, so that Ryan can hear.
So what was the biggest setback? So they're asking, what was the biggest setback you had in your career?
Ooh, the biggest setback I had in my career. I think COVID was huge. COVID really impacted us. I remember which now that I think about it, it turned out to be a blessing. But right when I came out of all of the Dempsey competitions, I was like 99% confident I wanted to go out and raise dilutive funding. So I remember I had like 80 investors that had DM'd me on LinkedIn. I had all these meetings set up, and then COVID hit. And obviously the economic impact, it kind of made investors weary, and literally like 80% of them dropped. So from there, I still went out and talked to the few, and I believe we had like we were in due diligence with 5 firms, and we had some offers. And I'm so glad that because of the economic climate and impact, the terms that they wanted, we didn't really want to do that, like giving up an extra board vote. Wow, that would have been the biggest mistake, because what's so beautiful about startups is how agile you are. You can pivot any day, right? When you have people who are asking you, how's their money doing? What's going on this week? Where are we at? It can really change the game. And I have, friends who have raised money that is dilutive money, that they said it was the biggest mistake they made, and their mission and their ultimate vision of the product and company went out the window. So long story short, that COVID was a huge setback. Not only that, but also dental offices shut down, right? So for us, it was a very hard time. We almost didn't even make it out of it, but we just decided to double down. Thank God, actually, for the investment money that I had, $100-something thousand, because that extended our runway. So what we doubled down was actually R&D. So our office was still open because we're focused in pain management. So I believe during the COVID, when general dentists were shut down, we could still operate. So we really actually honed in on our product and our educational material during those 2 years. So when that ended, we were like, okay, let's ready to run again. But that was a pretty big setback for everyone who was starting a business at the time.
You're muted, Marie.
That's great. Who else has a question?
Yeah, they're asking what you specifically put on your reference side. So your last slides to support your Q&A.
Oh, I had a lot of the financials. I had comparable companies and products. So if a lot of judges, because again, like I think I had, out of all this stuff I did, one judge who actually understood my industry, like competitors, products. The rest of them had zero idea. So I really had to walk them through, listen, this is what these companies are doing. This is how much their products are selling. These are their margins. This is how scalable it is, because a big question that I was getting, which you might also get, is how do you plan to scale this thing, right? So then I would kind of walk them through how, for example, a lot of people know Invisalign, like the invisible braces, clear retainer braces. They're not the exact industry as us, but they were near enough comparable that I could walk the judges through that journey of how they really scaled so fast. So I had that was a slide. I had also patent schematics because a lot of people didn't understand how our product worked mechanically. Why is it better? I spent some time on that. And I think a lot of financials also. I didn't even include that in my main slides. I had it all on references. So I would walk them through the projections, how I came up with those numbers and stuff.
Other questions? They asked, how did you highlight your competitors?
That's a great question. So I remember I had a slide that broke down competitive ecosystem, and I had direct and indirect competitors, and then kind of how ApnoMed was positioned superior or providing a product or service that neither of them were filling the void. So I was highlighting, like, for us, which you guys might not know what I'm talking about, but for example, CPAP companies, right, is an alternative. It's in the same industry as me, but they're not a direct competitor for oral appliance companies because they're selling positive airway pressure devices. So I use that as a company. And then for my direct ones, I obviously found people who are in my immediate industry, and I was using them as a direct competitor that they were selling oral appliances. And then I also had a competitive advantage matrix. So other products, our product, and then I had like the classic, this is what our product does and accomplishes. This is how theirs leaves some holes in the marketplace for our product to fit in. And then in the reference slides, I'm now remembering based off of because again, I was getting a lot of questions, which I don't know if you guys are going to get as many questions about like investing in scalability. I got a lot of them. When I was doing the Dempsey competition, they were really focused on that. So I had a support slide that was talking about those said competitors and their rounds of fundraising, and how that helped them to grow and why that is proving that my business is viable because there are investments being made in this space. And this is how fast they're scaling. This is how many rounds it's taking for them to IPO or exit. So that's kind of how I referenced and used competition.
Did you use PitchBook data for that?
Oh yeah. I was like PitchBook expert. Do you guys get access to PitchBook?
We do have access to PitchBook.
Oh, great. Yeah.
For us, and we're going to do a session coming up next month, so students will know how to use.
Great.
That.
Yeah, I mean, PitchBook will tell you everything that I just walked you through. Type in company, whatever, Apple, right? You'll be able to see all of the rounds of financing, who are their investors early on, which outside of these is very good for you to know for your business.
What are the valuable skills or experiences that judges look for?
What are valuable skills and or experiences judges look for in a team?
I think it's very important to have a diversified background. Like if you have just a team of PhDs, sometimes they don't love that because there needs to be at least one person in there who has a marketing or business background. So like when you're building your teams, try to strategically grab people. Okay, this guy's he's really good at marketing and social media. She's going to be our technical nerd. Like this guy is really good at pitching and selling. So you need to have these strategic people on your team. Make sure you guys aren't all the technical people, because, like for me, I was a little bit unique because it was like my dad's product. So I knew it very, very well. So I was also the business guy pitching it, and also I had the technical knowledge, but I had a marketing guy on my team because that's not my strongest suit. So all of the marketing questions, I would defer it to him. So making sure that you have a broad spectrum of people that can contribute to executing on the business plan and not just all people with the same skill set is huge, and highlighting that, right? I think that's very important.
Marie, if you have a few questions.
Okay, I do. I know some of our engineering students couldn't attend the live event, but they'll be watching the recordings.
Okay.
I'll ask a couple of questions I know they'll have. So
Sure.
you told me you were involved with the FDA clearance process. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about what it's like to have a product that has to go through that?
It's a nightmare. I mean, it's very challenging. And then let's start with this. So FDA clearances all come down to how you can market your product. Okay, so our product is marketed as addressing obstructive sleep apnea and snoring. I could theoretically go out without any FDA clearance and still sell our product without making any of those types of claims. But we couldn't say that Marie is coming to get this product to treat her sleep apnea, because then you have a lawsuit, right? So it's very strategic. And I would urge you guys, especially for the engineering students, I know those types of people, like my father, who are very technical and nerdy, they get really hung up on that process, and you can really drain your resources on runway. Because I can tell you, for our first FDA clearance, it was supposed to be around 55,000. All said and done, it was around 125. And I can go back to that and elaborate on some of the mistakes we made, but be very strategic about, do you need that FDA right away? Can you kind of have a MVP product that you launch with, and then go out and get that FDA and then make that claim that you want to sell your product as? So it's all a game, and you need to know how to play that game very well. I'd say right off the bat, we could have gone out and sold it as a different type of product that was claiming to just alleviate jaw pain. Okay, that would have been a third of the cost of an FDA clearance, because it would have put us as a type 1 medical device and not a type 2. Type 1, 2, and 3, type 1 is like a functional type appliance. So like if you go to a Rite Aid and you get an over-the-counter night guard for grinding your teeth, that's a type 1. A type 2 would be, we're claiming we're addressing obstructive sleep apnea, which is a medical condition, and snoring. Type 3 is pharmaceuticals, which is that's the hardest one to get. So be very strategic about them, and do them in levels if you need to. So like if we had done it type 1, it would have been like maybe 10 to 15,000. We could have made some revenue, still sold, and then gone back once we generated profit, and then put in for an FDA type 2 to compete with in the exact product line that we wanted to be in. The other mistake we made was we found an FDA consultant, right? Because obviously, I didn't have any PhDs on the team or people who had written FDA proposals. So we went out to find a consultant. She made all of these claims about how she had done it before. She knew what to do. We gave her a retainer. And then once we got down the process, we started to realize that I actually don't think she knows what she's doing. And then she ghosted us and took $15,000, and we never heard from her again. And then that ties to, okay, yeah, we could have sued her, but then that costs money. And you get into this rabbit hole of, I'm spending money to get money back, and money, cash for startups is gold. You don't want to waste it all. So we tucked our tails and went on to the next one. So then what I did was I got a little smart. I actually went on the FDA database, and I was able to find consultants who had passed predicate appliances in our class. So like our competition, let's say it was Oventus, right? I was able to find the FDA consultant that had successfully filed and got their 2 FDA type 2 clearances. So all of their information is there as public knowledge. So then we reached out to her, and now she's our FDA consultant, and she had track record. She had gotten appliances through. So be very smart when you go down that road, or else it can cost you a lot of money. So we could have saved money doing that. And then I would recommend, if you can, maybe get a PhD or somebody who has written those types of proposals on your team, because the consultant will charge you for writing that stuff. And it has to be written very differently than writing a business plan, because this is like different terminology and not everybody can write it, or it'll get rejected. And every time it gets rejected, you then have to make tweaks and resubmit, and it costs more money. So you really want to do it on your first shot. The other thing was, like, we made some very bold claims that then the reviewer examiner said, great, you're making these claims, now we have to prove it. So we had to do cytotoxicity tests, we had to do bench rating tests, which all cost an extra $10,000 to $15,000. But on the flip side, now we can say, our appliance can withstand 655 pounds of force, of bite force, which no other appliance can do that, which makes it suitable for TMJ patients who clench at night. It's all a double-edged sword, so you just have to know how to navigate that field and play the game. Getting a good consultant can help, but again, their job is to make money too. So they're like attorneys. You send them an email, you get a $650 bill. So be very careful. Leverage your university resources. I'm just going to put you with that. You guys have a golden ticket opportunity. I wish that I navigated the FDA field more when I was in university, because I'm sure there's experts at your school who have done it and can put you in connection with the right people and save you a lot of money.
Great, thanks. That's great advice. I do have one more, unless we have, Savannah, do you have anything else there? I have. Okay.
Not as an undergrad, but I will let Marie elaborate. So they're asking if they allow the school to help them with resources and stuff, does that give up intellectual property right?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'd be very careful with that. And I believe in some circumstances it might. So it depends, I guess, on what, and actually, Marie, you probably know how to answer that better than I do. But I do remember there was a couple companies out of the competitions that they had utilized and leveraged some university resources. And technically UW did own that intellectual property. And then they had to go through a whole thing to transfer that IP out to the company, or there was a specific structured deal where the university held the IP, but revenues were collected otherwise. So maybe I'll let you answer that if you have a better
The answer is just that we can talk about it, and you'll need to be careful about how you use that. But I think what Ryan's talking about, though, if you engaged a PhD student in a contractual arrangement where they helped you write some of the text that was submitted for FDA, right? That's not going to violate property, right? So there are opportunities to consult with some of our faculty in the Entrepreneurial Faculty Ambassadors Organization or other places who have done this in the past, and may even have consultants that they've worked with on their products when they take them to market. So I think that's what Ryan's really talking about, is making use of faculty who've taken products like this to market before, get their experience. And then there are PhD students you probably could contract with to help write some of the technical language on this, or graduates as well, without infringing in any way on your intellectual.
Exactly, yeah. What I was more talking about is, like, if you're using university resources, like their labs or whatever to produce a product or a technology, that's different than what I was talking about, is finding students, PhD students, to create a contract with them to help you as part of your team. That's not part of the university resource. So you own all of that IP.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right that they need to be careful about using university resources in terms of labs and things like that. And if you have any questions about that, definitely come see me and we can talk more about that after. My one last question, again, for the especially for the bioengineers that watch this after, is it can be super challenging to sell in something kind of through the medical process, right? So do you sell the product to other dentists or do you sell it to the consumer? Are you B2B or B2C?
A great question. We're a B2B2C. So it is, so the way that it works is with any oral appliance, that is an FDA type 2 medical device, the consumer can't buy it direct. It has to be prescribed by a medical or dental professional. So let's say, Marie, if you go into your dentist and you say that I've been sleeping bad, blah, 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 whatever, you get to a sleep diagnosis, that then dental professional would order the appliance from us, from our manufacturing lab, who is also FDA regulated, and then they would then sell that to you as a service, right? So the way that is another layer of complexity that, we get asked the most is, how much does your product cost? I actually can't tell you how much our product costs. I can tell you how much the dentist buys it for, but that dentist then sets a service fee in his office to deliver that treatment to you, right? And that could range from $2,500 to $5,000, depending on, is your dentist in Bellevue, Washington, or is he in a rural area in the middle of nowhere that charges less money? So that's structurally wise for our business and most dental type or medical type products. I can tell you that they don't price to consumers. They price it to the dental professional who's ordering it, who then, we collect money from the dentist who orders it. They sell it to the patient. We don't get any type of money from that. Now, there would be a way for us, which we did try to make a small pivot at one point during COVID, was a direct to consumer model. We were working on like a 3D printed version of our appliance, or a boil and bite type generic version that would have allowed us to, like, you would just enroll from your phone app, and then we would send you an impression kit, and then we would send the appliance directly to you. So there is different ways to do that. We decided not to do it because of some complexities with then lawsuits, and it's a medical condition. So if you wear our product and you have a heart attack and die, and you're claiming that the appliance didn't help my sleep apnea or something, so we decided not to pursue that. But for our structure right now, and most, I would say that's how it works. But there's obviously other ways to do it. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a sales force? Are you doing some of that yourself, or they come to you? You said you have a special residency event tomorrow.
So the mini residency is for training, right? Because really, a product or tool is great, especially if it's an exceptional one that can do what other products can't do. But the tool is only as good as the person who can know how to use it to its full extent, right? So these doctors are paying a lot of money to come out and be trained by us to do better level of care. They can still order some of our appliances in their office. We train them. Like if a doctor enrolls, it's all pre-recorded type courses, right? So they watch that for 2 hours, they deliver it in their office. But if they want to really become experts and understand TMJ and how to take it a step above, they come here and get trained, and then they can order more complex type of appliances. So the way that I would say we're more of a product support and R&D company than sales. Like our doctors do most of the sales. We still do advertise and stuff to the general public. I would say it's more about awareness rather than selling our product. But like our manufacturing lab, they also do a lot of our sales because they partner with us. So they contact doctors a lot, they sell. And kind of, it turned out to work this way, but, we really we have a lot of organic growth because the proof's in our pudding. Like it's a lot of word of mouth from doctors. Like we have now over 450 offices that are trained to deliver our products. And I would say majority of those, we didn't sell anything to the doctor. They came to us because they had tried another product and it had failed. They got side effects and they had talked to their colleague about their frustration. and their colleague said, oh, I use this appliance in my office. It's called the ApnoDent. It doesn't have any side effects. Then that doctor then reaches out to us and says, oh, I have all of these airway patients. I've tried other appliances. It messed up their mouth. I want to use yours. And on the flip side, we also get a lot of patients that just go to our website. They fill out the screening questionnaire, and then we route them to dental offices. So it's kind of a multi-channel approach, but yes, that kind of
Yeah, that completely.
yeah.
You threw in the multi-channel approach at the end there.
Yes.
It's exciting for me as we wrap up. We're at time, but to see Ryan now and all of the progress that you've made both with your company and personally, and it always delights me to see my former students be successful and use all of the industry logo, wording and all of that. How well you do that now. It's great to see that, how far you've come. So thank you for joining us today and for sharing with our students. And I'm sure that if any of them are interested in reaching out for advice, would you be willing to?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And if you want, I can send you the tips and stuff that I made. If people want that, I'd be more than happy to share it. And then if anybody wants to reach out, my email is ryan@ApnoMed or just LinkedIn, whatever. I don't really check LinkedIn inbox because a lot of spam. So email is the best, unless I'm randomly bored looking through my inbox on LinkedIn, but I'll respond if I see it, I promise.
Okay, great. Well, super. Well, thanks so much for joining
Absolutely.
us. All right, we'll go ahead and sign off our official recording. Thanks so much for joining us. And we'll just have to say, go Cougs.
Go Cougs, baby. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate the time. Take care. Bye, everyone. Good luck.
Bye.
Good luck.